Hey everybody, it's Chase with AV Pop Culture again, and today we continue our spooky season focused content with a look at the top 10 Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes of all time. This is some of my favorite Halloween viewing, so pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this. All right, so Simpsons Treehouse of Horror Halloween episodes. Now, I'm an 80s kid. I was like 9 or 10, maybe 11-ish, 10 when The Simpsons came out. I love The Simpsons. Now, I'm a bigger fan of the first, like, I'll say, probably 12 seasons of The Simpsons than the later seasons. I think those are like the first 10 to 12 to me are more quintessential Simpsons. But one of the things that is my favorite all time that I've watched with my kids since they were little, that I watched since I was little or younger when it came out, is the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror Halloween episodes. Now, these range from just absolutely fantastic to not as good, especially in recent years. But they are some of my favorite Simpsons episodes. And it started in season 2, so we have 30 plus Halloween episodes to go through. What I'm going to do is give you the top 10, what I consider the top 10 best of all time. I love Homer. I'm a huge Homer fan. All right, so coming in at number 10 is Treehouse of Horror 12. So this will be the 13th season, so it's always going to be off by one. This one you have, it's called Hex in the City. You have all these have 3 different stories. Hex in the City is one that is loosely based on Stephen King's Thinner, and Homer gets cursed by gypsies, and really though it's the rest of his family that are dealing with the curses, including like Marge getting covered with hair, Lisa turning into like a centaur type thing, different stuff, loosely based on Thinner, and it's pretty good. The winner for me on this season's episode, though, that kind of pushes it up there for me is House of Wax. And here, Pierce Brosnan is the star. They get a futuristic home that has like it's like a smart home, and it can control everything there. And of course, it's voiced by Pierce Brosnan, and it falls in love with Marge and is trying to get rid of Homer. And it is absolutely hilarious. Pierce Brosnan is excellent as this thing. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, dear me. Oh, yes. Yum, yum, yum.
And then this is like early 2000s. So this is like the first time they spoofed Harry Potter. I think the segment is Whiz Kids, and it's a Harry Potter spoof, like right down to funny takes on the names of the characters, all that kind of stuff. Pretty solid episode, but the Pierce Brosnan segment takes the cake for me. All right, at number 9, and I think this is probably the newest one on the entire list, is Treehouse of Horror 25. And it's really for a couple of spoofs or parodies here that are really good, but neither one are actually my favorite segment. There's a Clockwork Yellow, I think is the title, and it is a take on A Clockwork Orange, which is the very famous movie, Malcolm McDowell, all that kind of stuff. There's also a very clever take on a very good haunted house film, The Others, that stars Nicole Kidman. And the interesting thing about this one is that they have the Simpsons home is haunted by the ghosts of the original animated Simpsons, which looked very different. They were on Tracy Ullman's show to start with before they got their own show, and the original animation looked very, very different. So in their home, the others, the ghosts, are the original Simpsons, what they looked like. So it's a pretty cool, clever take on that movie. And then my favorite segment, though, might be School is Hell. And it's literally where the kids go to hell. There's a school in hell. And there's a lot of fun jokes in here, like, your cold day in hell. Can I go to hell, Mom? Like, it is, they have fun playing on it and poking fun at school and private school and the cost of education and all that kind of stuff. It is really fun. And I think all around, this is a solid episode. All right, now we get into, I wrote my list down so I didn't forget it. We get into, you're not going to find any very new ones from here on out. Coming in at number 8 is Treehouse of Horror number 8. And I didn't plan it that way, but this one has the stick out episode in here is you have the take on the Fly. Fly versus Fly. They have a teleport machine. They have a machine just like in the Fly, pretty much supposed to be a teleportation machine. And Bart gets crossed with a fly. It basically just swaps their heads out. But like some of the funny stuff in here is what Homer would do with that, which is to be lazy and reach through and get a beer. It's a fun take on it. And then you have Easy Bake Coven, which is like a witch story. It's kind of like the Crucible meets the Salem witch trials, and it kind of establishes why you would get candy on Halloween. It's fun, but probably my favorite in this is, besides the Fly, it's close, is Omega Homer, which is kind of like the Omega Man, the whole France nukes Springfield. He's one of the only ones left. He's still normal. There's dead bodies everywhere. It's almost like, it's all post-apocalyptic. He does exactly what you think Homer would do in that situation. He goes to the movies. He eats and drinks everything he can find. He comes up on some radiation mutants, basically, like Moe and the gang who are living. But it's a fun one. It's a pretty solid episode all the way through. So 8 comes in at 8. All right, at number 7 is Treehouse of Horror 10, and this one is really good. This one almost got up a little bit higher. It has a fun take on I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think it's I Know What You Diddly Did. and Marge and the family she's driving, and they're driving back on a foggy night, and Ned Flanders is out for a fog walk at night, and they hit him. They do a hit and run. It's like I Know What You Did Last Summer. But as it turns out, they're worried about this, and then things start happening. It turns out you can't kill him because you can't kill the undead. And earlier in the night, Ned had got bitten by a werewolf, so he was a werewolf. So you combine I Know What You Did Last Summer with a werewolf, so you get me. I really enjoy that. And there is it's kind of dated now, I guess, if you didn't live through this, but there's the whole Y2K segment, where Homer forgets to give the Y2K protocol to the power plant, and their one computer is the one that's responsible for destroying everything when the computers were going to mess up at midnight on the year 2000. And that one's pretty good. You get to see some of that. And if you were alive, like I was 2021 when that happened, so I definitely remember that. But another one in here that's really fun for me, because I've been a guest at horror conventions where I've sat and signed autographs and met people and all that stuff, and met other famous people that do this, is I can't remember the name of the segment. It's but it stars Xena, Lucy Lawless as Xena, and the comic book man as the collector, and he's trying to collect everyone. He's trying to collect actual Xena and these actual famous people and put them in giant Mylar bags. And it's just a very fun take on like people, overzealous fans and stuff like that, and the whole fanboy culture. And I don't mean that in a bad term, because I fanboy over things, but definitely a lot of fun. And Lucy Lawless with their Xena needs Zex to try to throw off the comic book guy. He's got his lucite down there. It is a fun episode all the way around. So episode 10, or Treehouse of Horror 10, comes in at number 7 on our list. All right, number 6 on our list. Now we're really getting the older ones are my favorite, and at number 6 on our list is Treehouse of Horror 3. Now, in this one, you get your 3 segments. One of them is a standard take on classic King Kong, King Homer. Homer is portraying King Kong. It's all done in black and white. Mr. Burns takes him to the island. He's going to use Marge as bait, and of course, that's the Homer or the King Kong and the woman sort of relationship there. And Homer is literally eating everybody. Eating everybody the way Homer eats everything. It's a fun take on King Kong. Dial Z for Zombies is another segment in here. It is a lot of fun because it is their take on really Night of the Living Dead. I love where they bring the dead back to life, and it's they're trying to raise their cat back to life, and they're doing a ritual, and Bart has the album of Thriller on his head. They accidentally raise the dead. For some reason, includes every famous person, including Shakespeare. Like, why would Shakespeare be buried in Springfield? Is this the end of zombie Shakespeare? Like, I have to be careful because I can quote every Simpsons episode. I could probably run through the dialogue. But it is a lot of fun. And one of my favorite parts, though, is where Homer kills Zombie Flanders. And Bart's like, "You killed Zombie Flanders." And he's like, "He was a zombie." I mean, it's just great Homer. And you have to do that one. But one on here that's really good is Clown Without Pity. And now this is a take on the Evil Doll episode of The Twilight Zone. The Simpsons spoofed The Twilight Zone or parodied The Twilight Zone a lot. This is one of them. It's an evil Krusty doll, and it's trying to kill Homer. His setting is turned to evil instead of good. If you pay attention, though, it's not just The Twilight Zone. It is also a little bit of a parody of Gremlins, because at the very beginning, where Homer goes and finds this doll, is very much like where I just totally blanked on the dad's name from Gremlins. Anyway, he goes and he finds Gizmo, and it's very, very similar, and it's a lot of fun there. And the whole episode is pretty good. Like, I look for these that are solid all the way through. And I had to, watch them all again, just to check them out. I watched them all yesterday. But Treehouse of Horror number 3 comes in at number 6. Now, at number 5 on our list is Treehouse of Horror number 6. And you got your 3 stories in here again. You've got Homer Cubed, or Homer in the Third Dimension, which is the final segment, which was a very expensive segment at the time, where they had to make Homer 3D. This is also a take on a Twilight Zone episode, and most people don't realize it. This is one where me and my kids, I quote this to my kids all the time. The Homer looks down and sees the 3-dimensional fish swimming, and he's like, "Unprocessed fish sticks."
Unprocessed fish sticks.
We do that with everything now and have for a long time. My son was like 5 years old, and we were driving by a farm full of cows. And he says, my mom is telling him, maybe he was like 6 or 7, because my daughter is just like a year or so younger. And she's telling them about how that's what they make hamburgers out of, because he's always been loved hamburgers. And my daughter's like, "Ooh, that's gross." And everybody else in the car is like, "Ooh, that's so gross to think about." And my son's like, I wonder how many cheeseburgers I could get out of one of those. So I always think about that with him. Unprocessed hamburgers. It's one of our favorite segments in an episode. This one is stacked, though, because it also has Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesores, which is a take on Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. It's where the big, giant outdoor advertisements all come to life, and it's sort of like a mix of Maximum Overdrive and just a little bit, too, because of the comet going over and all that, so it kind of combines both of those concepts a little bit. And it's all started because Homer gets pissed off that he doesn't get a full-size giant donut from Lard Lad Donuts, and so he takes the Lard Lad Donut sign donut away from the donut sign. It's a fun one. They go on a killing rampage. And what's funny is there is a giant Lard Lad, just like in that movie at that show at Universal Studios Florida, Except for there, you can buy a lard lad donut that's bigger than a dinner plate. So it's very, very cool. Son gets one every time he goes to Universal Studios. And then probably the best segment in here, this is a damn good episode, is Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace, which is the best parody on Nightmare on Elm Street ever, and kind of dark, a little bit scary. You see groundskeeper Willie get burned to death, and nobody's doing anything at this PTA meeting, so he vows revenge. You get to see Bart and Lisa work together, which is always kind of fun because they go at it, but they love each other. So seeing them work together is fun. Maggie gets to come in and save the day. I think it's a great take on the Nightmare on Elm Street. This is a really, really solid episode, and it comes in at number 5 on our list. At number 4 on our list is Treehouse of Horror 2. So this is the second time they did it. And the first episode, or the first segment in here, is Monkey's Paw. Classic story. They get a monkey's paw. You give them 3 wishes. But of course, the wishes all backfire. Even wishing for world peace then allows the aliens, Kang and Kodos, to come in and take over. So everything has, even wishing to be rich and famous, has backfire. Everything backfires. Even when Homer wishes for his turkey sandwich, the turkey's a little dry. The turkey's a little dry. I love The Simpsons, y'all. Monkey Paw is pretty standard. And then there's an segment where, again, they're going to parody The Twilight Zone, where Bart, they even do the Rod Serling type voiceover in this one, though. It's where the boy has powers and everybody in town's afraid of him because he can kill you and do anything he wants to. And he has that evil temperament of someone with no conscience, but is also a kid, and it's just messed up. And so Bart does all these things, and it's all these segments are taking place within nightmares for each one of the Simpsons. Because Bart, Lisa, and Homer all ate too much candy, and it's giving them nightmares. So they are all doing, their own nightmares. And this one is Bart's, and you're like, why is this one's Bart's? But Bart's like kicking ass in this. Well, at the end of it, he makes up with Homer, and they hug each other lovingly and tell each other, I love you, and he wakes up screaming. It's kind of funny. My favorite one in here, though, is the one that's on Take on Frankenstein. This is Homer's nightmare, and he ends up getting killed, and Mr. Burns is basically Dr. Frankenstein, putting him back together, and as he's ready to come back to life, Mr. Burns gets killed, and he has to sew his head on Homer's head, so it's like a Frankenstein with 2 heads. But just the little things in this where he's got a bet with Mr. Smithers whether or not he can bring Homer back to life or not. And when he does, he's like, oh, you're right. I owe you a Coke. Like they bet a Coke on it. It's just little stuff like that. It is just so subversive and funny and just messed up with The Simpsons that I enjoy so much. So Treehouse of Horror 2 comes in at number 4 on our list. We are to the top 3, and I went back and forth on these. But in the end, the top 2 were clear. The top 3 were clear. It was just in order. And it's almost like a 1, a 1A, and a 1B for me. But at number 3 is Treehouse of Horror 5. And this is where you get your Shining parody. And it's great because not only is it a Shining parody where Homer and the family go to the hotel for Mr. Burns, and they take over the hotel, and you see a lot of classic images from The Shining. There's also this quick little scene where you see like Jason, Freddy Krueger, Dracula, the Mummy, all these people come and drag Homer into being evil. And it's all, no beer and TV make Homer go crazy. And it's just a lot of fun. And it really does follow it along pretty good. Another one on this is Time and Punishment, which I think is actually based on a short story, but I can't remember the name of it. Homer has a toaster that somehow lets him travel back and forth in time. And he remembers if you ever travel back in time to not touch anything. Well, every time he goes back in time, he touches something, squishes something, breaks something. And when he goes back in time to the present, things are completely changed. So getting to see how they've all changed each time is a lot of fun. And seeing Homer's luck, where he comes back one time, he has an amazing family, an amazing house, the perfect versions of all of them. They're super rich and all this. And he asks, can he have a donut? And they're like, what is a donut? And he runs screaming away, just missing the fact that it rains donuts outside. I mean, it's just perfect. Poor Homer. Poor Homer. So that one's a lot of fun. But maybe the best one on here, I don't know, The Shining is really good. Nightmare Cafeteria is good. And this one's based on Soylent Green. And this is where the tension is overflowing and the teachers and the principal are evil. And so they decide to help their budget, to help the detention problem, all this kind of stuff. They're going to start eating the children. And it is super gross, super messed up, super ridiculous, and super awesome. So great 3 stories here. So Treehouse of Horror 5 comes in at number 3. That leaves the top 2. And this is where it got heated with me, having to go back and forth. I kind of wanted to just put them both at 1. But at number 2 is Treehouse of Horror number 1. The first one, I love all these. This was the coolest shit ever. I was like 11 maybe when the first one came out. And so I was like prime age for this. And the first one is based on one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Actually, kind of 2, but it's mostly based on, it's called Bad Dream House, and it's mostly based on Amityville Horror, though it does have a little bit of Poltergeist thrown in there too. And the family goes, they get a cheap house. It looks an awful lot like the Amityville Horror house. And the house is evil. It's built over an ancient Indian burial ground. It's trying to convince them to kill each other. But some of the funniest parts is when the Simpsons are the Simpsons, and they try to talk this thing down. Bart tries to push it to do the bleeding walls and tell it what to do. And at the end, it would rather kill itself than to live with the Simpsons. And then, how can you not love the next segment? Hungry Are the Damned. Not only is this an awesome parody of the Twilight Zone episode, How to Serve Man, but it is the first time we meet Kang and Kodos. And I love Kang and Kodos. Now, the other thing you have in here, you have a third alien in this, Sarek the Preparer, who you don't normally have. But this James Earl Jones is guest starring in this episode, which makes it even greater. He narrates stuff in the Bad Dream House segment. He narrates one of the characters in this segment, and he narrates in the final segment too. So it's awesome. Of course, the Simpsons aren't sure. They're abducted by Kang and Kodos aliens. They're not sure whether or not they're being fattened up for the slaughter, or whether or not they're actually are guests of honors. And it's kind of still not clear to this day, because they do bring them back at the end, but you ask, like, why are they trying to fatten them up? But then if they were going to kill them, why would they bring them back? You know, you don't know, but I love this episode, and it gives us 2 great ongoing characters. There's even a Kang and Kodos twirl and hurl ride at Universal Studios where they shout insults at you. It is absolutely great. And then The Raven is an awesome segment where you get to hear James Earl Jones recite Edgar Allan Poe's poem, The Raven. And that is absolutely awesome. And you got Bart is the Raven, who's like, nevermore, nevermore, nevermore. But here, it's worth just seeing hearing James Earl Jones recite The Raven. Quoth the Raven, nevermore. I mean, it's like nobody can do James Earl Jones' voice. But it is absolutely awesome. I love the vibe of that. It's very creepy and eerie. I like the fact that the kids are setting up there in the treehouse, telling the stories. That's where you get Treehouse of Horror. They're telling these stories anthology style. Homer is overhearing them. He gets scared shitless because he's Homer. And that sort of sets up everything for all of the seasons. All of it. That's where they get Treehouse of Horror instead of just a Halloween special. I love Marge introducing this one and some of the other early episodes. Absolutely love it. And it comes in at number 2 on our list. At number 1 on our list is one, I mean, this one, I just had to go with this as number 1. This is Treehouse of Horror 4 at number 1. Now, the wraparound on this is cool in of itself. It is Bart Simpson as like Rod Serling in Night Gallery, which is kind of like a Twilight Zone where he walks through a gallery and you see the different paintings and stuff like that. And he goes into a story. And then the stories in this are iconic. Absolutely so much fun. The first one you have is The Devil and Homer Simpson. One of the greatest ones ever. This is another one we quote in my house a lot because of the forbidden donut. So Homer sells his soul to the devil for a donut. The devil turns out to be Ned Flanders because it's always the one you least suspect. He shows up and he's goat-legged, and I love watching Mr. Burns watch them on the security cam, and he's like, "Who's the goat-legged fellow? I like the cut of his jib." And Smithers is like, "It's Prince of Darkness, sir. He's your 9 o'clock." There's so much in this that is good, but maybe the best part of it, besides the trial at the end, which is ends up kind of sweet and has like these iconic villains. Another quote that I do is for Blackbeard: debauchery was my way of compensating. You can't read, Benedict Arnold. Listen, y'all, I love this. But when Homer goes to hell and his ironic punishment is to have to eat all the donuts in the world, and they can't crack him. As more he eats, the more he's like, more. Oh, Homer. You gotta love Homer. This is a great segment. It's funny when the devil shows up and he's like, "Hey, Bart." And he's like, "Hey." Like, they know each other very well. Great segment. So much fun. And then the next one is based on a Twilight Zone episode 2, one of the most iconic ones ever, Nightmare at 20,000 feet. This is Nightmare at 5.5 feet. And I like the atmosphere of this. It's like storming and creepy. And they're on the school bus, and Bart sees the gremlin on the side, the same way William Shatner sees the gremlin on the wing of the plane. It parallels it so much. It is an absolutely fun episode or segment in this episode. And classic, parroting a classic Twilight Zone episode. You gotta love it. But the best one, maybe the best segment of all, is Bart Simpson's Dracula. And this is great. It is a take on the Bram Stoker's Dracula, which was very new at the time, like maybe a year old when this came out. And you have the Simpson family going to Mr. Burns' castle in Pennsylvania. And he has the whole, look of Gary Oldman in Bram Stoker's Dracula with the red out when he has the red outfit and the weird hair. And Homer makes fun of his hair. Just this whole segment, the vibes, the subversion of what you would expect. And then it has the best ending absolutely ever. They are all vampires. That's the twist. They're flying in to attack. And then suddenly it cuts to a Charlie Brown Christmas ending with the and the snow is falling and piano's playing. You cannot end more perfect than that because people flip the switch after Halloween to Christmas. Maybe the best segment of any Treehouse Horror episodes of all time, and there are 3 great ones in that, and that ending cannot be beat. I absolutely love it. If you can't have fun with these 10, you can't have fun with anything. These 10 episodes, watch them. It only take you they're like about 23, 24 minutes a piece. So, about 3 hours or so worth of watching. Put them on Halloween day. Let them play. Have some fun. Lighten up. Enjoy when things weren't so politically correct and comedy could be comedy and you could just make fun and pick at people and just have a blast and parody classic things that we all love. It's so much fun. I have always loved The Simpsons, and they are still going. Now, to me, like I said, the first 10 or 12 years are the best quintessential Simpsons, but I am a massive Homer fan. Even when I was a kid and everybody liked Bart and he did the Butterfinger commercials and everything else, I was all about Homer I love me some Homer, and I still do. But that is my list. This is just a fun one that I wanted to do for me. I wanted to share with you guys because I am such a big Simpsons fan. So are my kids, and we love going to Universal Studios and seeing the Simpsons land there and eating at Krusty Burger and all that kind of stuff. It is an absolute blast. And I, to this day, from an episode, we quote episodes all the time. Every time my son eats, I'm like, "'Tis not a child, 'tis a remorseless eating machine." So if you know that episode, you know what I'm talking about. And I hope you have enjoyed this. This was just a lot of fun for me to do, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. We are spooky season focused here for just a couple more days. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to do any horror movies or any horror stuff anymore, but I have a November watch list coming. Some palate cleansing lists coming, some different stuff that I like to watch in November that might be a little different as we go into Christmas focused stuff a little bit later in the month. And then for the month of December, for sure, will be mostly Christmas focused. But with a lot of other stuff, we do 4K reviews, lists, rankings, all from a fan and filmmaker's perspective. If that sounds like something that's your jam, like I said, like and subscribe if you want to help support the channel. Even more, you can join right here at my Patreon link or on YouTube. Get your name in lights, special access to special videos, and so much more. Y'all, I really do appreciate it. I've had a blast this spooky season. We're almost to Halloween, and get out there and enjoy it. Soak it all in. It goes by so fast. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. Oh!
I know.